Coming up next, part 2 of our great conversation with Herschel Walker. The Hall of Famer was above and beyond in part 1, sharing with us all that he's had to endure during this pandemic that we all continue to be a part of. But in part 2, he talks about sports, he talks about civility, he talks about all that's going on in our world right now. And it's coming up next. Angel Carlton and yours truly, Scott Murray, with the great Herschel Walker.
What's sad about the situation with me, and I told someone this, I said, you guys, what's sad about me is I have white people in my family today. I have Italian people in my family today. I have Chinese people in my family today. I even got a Russian girl in my family today. And I said, so we all mutts. We have a bunch of mutts in our family, but we love each other, and I'm not going to leave either one of them. So when there's a problem, we solve it by we coming together, talking and communicating. And I said, that's the problem we have today. No one want to communicate. No one want to touch these touchy subjects and stuff. They run away from it. And I said, that's sad. I said, it's sad. And I'm going to speak out because I love America. And America is a melting pot. You know, when you bring all the different races into America and you mix them into this bowl and you stir them up, that's where all this good stuff has come from. I said, that's where it came from. It didn't just come from one race. It didn't just come from two races. It came from all these melting pots into this bowl that it mixed up and all this beautiful stuff comes out. And I said, right now, people are afraid to speak up for America. And I said, guys, don't be afraid. I said, we already fought that war. Yeah. That war has already been fought. So why are we worried about that? And I go back, and this is sad. I said, I go back to our leaders. Our leaders have to stand up. The leaders, and they're going to get mad at me. That's our Congress and our Senate. I said, not to be mean. I hate to be mean. But this problem been going on for a long time. Have they addressed it one time? They don't want to address it. I said, until they address it, and I said the way we can solve it is by we going to vote. People hate for me to say that, to vote. I know you have to go vote because we have a framework set up, and you do it by voting. You have a framework already set up. You do it by voting. And I said, so, but what you have to do, though, you got to register to vote. You have some people that say, oh, I didn't go vote because I didn't like neither one of them. Well, that's why you're speaking then. Right. You didn't vote for nothing. If you do nothing, you got nothing. So I don't know what you're talking about. And so I said, I'm going to speak up like me or not. I love America, and too many people have fought and died for you to have this voice, even though I may disagree with you. Because we can agree to disagree. That's what's so wonderful about America. I don't have to agree with you. And there's some awful things I've heard athletes say. Some awful things they say. And what's funny, and I hate to say this, is I heard the thing the young man from Philadelphia said, and I remember the night before, but when they made the statement, they called me up and said, Herschel, I want you to come on to talk about it. And I said, I would love to do it because I was going to go on the radio and not the TV and absolutely blast this athlete. But I was totally blessed by God that the show couldn't happen, that I got a chance to think about it. And I said, Herschel, you're totally wrong because in America, he's got the right to say whatever he want to say. He just can't go hurt nobody with this. But he got the right to say it, and you have the right to disagree with it. I said, so instead of me coming down on him, why don't I sit down with him and see why he may feel like that or if that is real and understand where he's coming from, and then he can understand where I'm coming from. That's what America really is, that we have a chance to disagree and a chance to communicate. Because I said, I hate to tell people this is, guys, race, we're mutts. All of us are mutts today. I hate to tell you, we're all mutts. There ain't no purebred anymore. I hate to say it. That's the reason people are doing that 23andMe. Because ain't nobody pure anymore. So forget that out of your head. We're mutts today. And everyone has a heart. Everyone believes. I remember watching this story with the Honorable John Lewis, who just passed away. And I don't know if you guys ever seen this story. If you got a minute, you would love this story. You know, John Lewis was on the Freedom Rider bus. They were traveling down through Alabama. And do everyone know, everyone on that Freedom Rider bus went ahead and signed the wheel because they felt that they were going to die on that ride. But they still were going to be on that bus to travel. And as they got to the border of Alabama, the Ku Klux Klan met them there. Met them right at the border. Said, no, y'all not getting through. But what people don't realize, on that bus, 70% may have been black, but that was 30% that was white. And as they got to that line, the Ku Klux Klan started throwing bricks, started throwing all these stuff at the bus, breaking the windows. And the bus happened to escape and get away, but it had a flat tire. So the bus couldn't go too far. And as the bus get on down the road, all of a sudden a firebomb they threw underneath the bus, and the bus caught fire. Well, they grabbed hands and started to pray. And I'm not sure the young man, they said, no, we can't die on this bus. We just getting started. We can't die on this bus. And all of them rushed off the bus. And as they rushed off the bus, John Lewis, the Honorable John Lewis, is down on his knees coughing. And he said, as he looked over to his right, he sees a guy's legs there. And the guy said, boy, are you all right? And Mr. Lewis said, yes, sir, I'm all right like this. And he said, all of a sudden, this guy began to beat the living daylights out of him with a bat.
Oh.
Said that he is bleeding. Said this guy is beating him. And said he's not fighting back. He's just covering his head because there's a peaceful protest. And he said a police officer came up and stopped this. And he said that the police officer asked Mr. Lewis, said, boy, do you want to press charges against this man? And this Mr. Lewis said, no, sir. He said, I don't want to press any charges against him. He said, we didn't come down here to cause trouble. He said, we didn't come down here to get no one in trouble. Well, let's go 40 years past. All of a sudden, an old white gentleman walked in John Lewis' office, who John Lewis is a congressman. This old white gentleman came in and grabbed Mr. Lewis' hand and said, Mr. Lewis, my name is whatever. He said, I want to apologize to you because I don't want to leave this earth before I apologize to you because I am the gentleman that was beating you with that bat back in 1960, whatever.
Wow.
And he said, you changed me. Because he said, all I ever thought of an African-American, because sometimes all you ever think is what you hear from someone else, that, African-Americans this or white or that, this. You hear this.
Yeah, we got to
and
change those stories.
When I heard you say, no, sir, I didn't come down here to cause trouble, he said, you changed me.
Wow.
And he said, and I was a Klan member. And I said, see, that's the reason we need to sit down and talk, because we have so much more in common than we have separate. But because people don't know, they don't want to deal with. So I go back to our people in Washington that it's okay to talk about these sensitive subjects. It's okay because we're far past that today. Even Martin Luther King said, I may not see that, but I know one day. And that's what I said to people. I said, Herschel Walker may not see total equality, but I know one day my son may. So it ain't like I'm fighting for Herschel Walker. I'm fighting for my next generation. Mm-hmm. Because I've had a good ride. I've had a good ride. Guys, who can say you had a better life than Herschel Walker? Mm-hmm. Has it been tough? Yes, it's been tough. But who can say you had a better ride than me? But I want my son to have a better ride than I had, because I had a better ride than my father. And my father had a better ride than his father. And I said, that's what you do. But, Scott, you had tough times too. You didn't like you grew up with a silver. Nobody had that. And and that's why I said that's the reason I speak out. I don't speak out for me. I speak out for my son. I speak out for my friend. I was telling you earlier, I had a coach in high school, a coach by the name of Tom Jordan, who showed me everything about working out. That's where I got my workout from, because I was fat, stuttered. And he knew I had to have something, because my two older brothers was very talented. So he knew I had to have something. So after church on Sundays, he used to come pick me up. We go to the track, and he would sit there with me, and he'd talk mentally with me, and then we'd go out and work out. And I got better, but he made me feel good about me. Well, the things he used to say back then, and the things he even talked today, if he said those things today, people probably have him arrested. He's a white guy. People probably have him arrested, but then both white and black loved him to death because had nothing to do with what he was saying. It's his heart. Had nothing to do with what the man was saying. It was his heart. And that's what I say is, you can say what you want to say. I don't care. I know your heart. That's what people got to realize. I know your heart.
So with all that's going on today, the divisiveness, the racial issues, on top of the pandemic and people dealing with isolation, depression, all this stuff, what's your biggest concern?
Yeah, go back, if you might, play off of what Angel just asked. Colin Kaepernick, 2016, and wouldn't stand up for the national anthem, get down on one knee. And everybody says, no, where's that coming from? No, what is this all about? And then the NFL gets involved, and then some other players are going to do it. And then is a team. And then is this a good thing? Is this not? What how can we come together? What do we? Yeah. And then Black Lives Matter comes about. And is this really good for blacks, or is this what Antifa group? Is this who really controls that? What's going on? As an African American, and certainly one of the most incredible athletes of all time, and great individuals, I think people have had a chance to see what an incredible human being you are just by listening to what you've had to share with us today. And that's 35 years later why people say, who are some of the greatest athletes you've ever met? Not for how they are on the field, but what kind of human being they are off. And that's why you're in that short list of when I think of a guy, a Roger Staubach, and even Troy Aikman has become so much like Roger. And there's, Dirk Nowitzki. Look at he does it, off the court, and what a great individual, a great human being to help. I've seen him at so many just nonprofits and that type of thing. So thank you for all you continue to do, number one. But to play off of what Angel said, and then take it back 4 years ago, and now where we are 4 years later, and of course having the pandemic hasn't helped us. But but what we see now in our world today.
Well, I start out with the respect, and what I mean by respect is respect for not the law. We are a country that was built on laws. Do we need to correct the laws a little bit? Yes, we need to correct them, but that happens in Washington. We have to have respect for the law, and when Kaepernick, when he did that, I said, no, I will stand for the flag. I disagree with him. And, NFL at the time disagreed with him too. But they got to be politically correct today, so they decided to change it. But let me tell you what's so funny about it. It's okay to protest. It's okay to protest, but you're in the United States of America, which is okay, peaceful protest. But Kaepernick was wearing a San Francisco 49ers outfit. Well, he's on his job. Well, you have, when you sign to play football or you sign to go to work, you have, what do you call it? You have something in your contract that you cannot do something on your job and all this. So he had that in his contract, meaning, that they're not against what he may be standing for, but he's advertising it in their San Francisco 49er jersey. And my question I asked, and people can get mad at me, I don't care. I said, would he have done that if he was starting? If he was playing, would he have done that? I don't know. And then, whether he can play today. What's so funny about it? If he could play today, somebody would have him on that team. I don't think he blackballed. I don't think so. Because everybody loved to win the Super Bowl. Let's be real. If you can help me to win the Super Bowl, you're playing. I don't care how, that. Let's be real about this. So that's what I say. And today the problem is nobody want to talk about what I was saying earlier on, these sensitive subjects. You want to just use this term BLM. Okay, Black Lives Matter. You're in the United States of America, and you're right. Black lives do matter, but all lives matter. All Black lives matter. But then American lives matter. So they don't like me to say that term, American lives matter, because we're just talking about black lives. I said, okay then. So you're talking about Black Lives Matter or the organization of Black Lives Matter, because the organization of Black Lives Matter is different than Black Lives Matter. The organization says what they stand for, which is with the blue, which is Democrat, which is, if they're 501c3, you can't really have a political side, which is okay. They got to do their things over there. And that's why I said, so the NBA and the NFL is telling me that they're telling all the players, you got to believe in Black Lives Matter. Because that was one of the questions I have. And I said this to them, you're a team. Okay, I think what they should do, this is Herschel Walker now, I'm an idiot. What you should do is the team come together as a team, meaning all the players, all the front office, all the owners come into a room and you vote as an individual team. Not up in New York where the commissioner is saying, okay, who want to put Black Lives Matter on your jersey? You raise your hand. Majority win, because you're a team. And then when you leave that room, you go for what the majority says. I don't care whether you're black, white, or whatever. You are a team. Because, and I don't know the full statement of Drew Brees. And I said, guys, I lost respect for Drew a little bit because he apologized. And people said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Let me tell you." And it hurt me because I said, when I first heard his excuse of saying the reason why he would not kneel, he said because my grandfather, my grandfather and my father fought in the war for this flag, and it made me cry. I said, I understand that, so I can understand why you kneel. And so you were not being insensitive to all your black brothers. We weren't being insensitive. I said, but what you need to do is just sit down with them and understand what's going on with them. But still, you can still stand, because right now, are you turning away from your family? That's all you got. Your family fought for you. So are you going to turn away from your family now? Because you now are going to, and I don't know the reason he did, but to me, that's what I see. Now you're going to turn away from your family who went and fought in a war for you. My mom said something to me, and I said, let's go back to her, because I asked her, and I said, Mom, you got to tell, my mom was in her 80s, you got to tell me about when you grew up. And she talked about when she grew up. But my mom also said something. She said, Bo, I don't think anyone need to be paid reparation. She said, because how can you pay for someone being hung? How can you pay for someone being burned to death? I said, there's no money for that. And she said, do you think people should pay for all the whites that died during the Civil War to free you? That's what my mom said. She's in her 80s, and I said, no, ma'am. She said, things are moving slow, but she said, we just had a black president. She said, so we're moving. She said, things are moving slow, but we are moving. She said, that's what you do. She said, right now, we're being thrown back because what's happening, and I said, people need to look. I said, we're being blinded because I am confused, because I look, and I said, how in the world could our leaders say that stuff is peaceful when you're seeing police officers getting hurt? Are they hurting themselves? This is a mob that's hurting them. They ain't not hurting themselves. This is a mob hurting them. And you have people watching, it's peaceful. It's nice. And then you see young kids being killed by African Americans. But they don't want to talk about that because, that's not important. We're talking about police brutality. Well, to be honest with you, there may be a few of them that's pretty bad. We can get rid of them, and the way you get rid of them, by better training. I told someone this, and I said, and people need to listen to this. When you want better teachers, you pay them more money. Get more people going in that field to be better. When you want police to be better, you put more money into training so they train better. When you want to win the NBA or the NFL title, you don't go out and take money away from your team. You go buy you better players. So you put money, boy, in there. So where has anyone come up with taking money away from them? And I said, so you fight. And I said, so why don't somebody stand up and say the truth? People is afraid to speak the truth. And I said, guys, this is what's so funny. If you're an African-American person, you've seen so many people that died for you to get to the point you're at today. I've seen people die. I grew up in the South. I grew up with the Klan. I know what they are. I can tell you things that would totally freak you out that I went through. But I said, I forgive, because I hate to see a minister, and they need to listen to me right here. I hate to see a minister out there talking about this, because this is one of the things, the most read book in the world. In the Bible, it says, how can I ask my heavenly Father to forgive me if I can't forgive my brother? And he without sin cast the first stone. So what we need to do is come together and talk about it. And what we need to do in the NFL and NBA, do what you want to do. But if you want to make things better, what you do is you take all that money that you want to give to BLM, and you start coming up with people we can put in Washington to vote in our agenda, to change this narrative, because it ain't going to change like we're doing. Because my thing is, everyone is shouting, but no one is coming up with a solution. Where's the end game at? Because when Kaepernick first started, what was the end game? Okay, what are you asking for? What do you want? Because then I can get behind you. What are we trying to get to? Because do you even know where we're trying to go? They say, we want equality, we want justice. Okay, what does that look like? Or we want equality. Okay, what are you talking about? You see what I'm saying? That's all I was saying. I'm saying, where do we go to get there? Because we can't just be in the race but don't know when we finish. We're just gonna be running forever. Where's the finish line? And so that's the reason I speak up, and people get mad, and they don't want to hear. You don't want to hear the truth. And I told someone, there's this young lady, It's Candace Owens. I don't know if you heard that name. This lady is on fire.
Yeah.
She's on. I love her to death. Yeah. But let me
She's
tell you
all
what.
over the
She
internet.
throw fights on you that would like freak you out. But people don't want to talk to her. They yell at her. They want to shout her down. But I said, I hate to tell you, my little girl is giving you the facts that. I hate to say I don't mean my little girl. She giving you the facts that you don't want to hear, but that's true. So we need to listen to those facts. And I said, but we can help this if we decide to come together, talk about these sensitive subjects, quit trying to be politically correct, because the first disrespect we show, people are going to hate this, is when Donald Trump got elected as president of the United States. And some of the Democratic Party decided we're not coming to his inauguration. I don't want to have nothing to do with him. And I go, whoa, that's the first disrespect you show, because at your home, you're the parents. If you act like a crazy person, don't you think your kid going to act the same way? So when you show the disrespect, don't you think everybody in the thing going to show the disrespect? But you were voted in by your people, so you got to represent your people and show up and try to get along with this president. Because, not to be mean, I tell people all the time, don't listen to what he says, see what he does. And I hate to run this off. I said, now, who funded the historical black colleges? Let's be real here. That was a black president in office for 8 years. Now, let's be real here now. Who funded the historical black college? Was this guy. Okay, who started getting jobs for the Hispanic, the black, the African American, who changed this economy? You know, that was people there for a long time. That was this guy right here. And let's get away from the facts. This man has been doing it with no help. I said, give him a little help. Let's see what he can do, because I don't know, but I will respect that office. I will respect the police. Are all police officers correct? No, but all blacks are not correct. All whites not correct. All whatever not correct. You have that in a system. But what's great about the United States of America, we can vote. We can vote. We can we can get up and say hi. We can say what we want to say. We have the freedom. Freedom, and freedom is not free. Don't think freedom is free, because there's people that's dying even today in our military. Because even though you may not think there's war times, but we still have our military that's in some wars. People don't even know that. We still have our military that's out there. There's somebody maybe dying today. Mm-hmm. But yet we're in this country here thinking we're free. I said, no, we're not free. And to be honest with you, let's be honest, China don't like us. Y'all may not know, China don't really like you. I'm gonna tell y'all something too. Russia don't like you either. Y'all didn't know that? They don't like you. But the reason they don't step out of line is because our United States military. Nothing to do with our NBA teams. It's our United States military. But they try to do everything to hurt us. And I just tell people, guys, we have to protect each other. And I'm going to protect the NBA, even though I disagree with them. I disagree with the BLM on the court, but I will protect them with my life for their freedom. But when you have Antifa, when you have players, when you have people that won't even let you speak without wanting to beat you up, what kind of country is that? I don't want to live in that country.
Not the one that any of us want to be a part of.
I don't want to be a part of that. So that's why I tell the American people, speak up. Don't hide in the shadows. Let's not let this country go into something that we don't want. That's why I said you have to vote. We're at war right now. You have to vote. And you know what? And if you don't like a person, get him out of office. Get him out of office. Get someone new in, because we vote just for the president. We don't vote for us local leaders. We just put the same person that's been there forever, same person been there forever. But because you've been sitting the same person there forever, nothing has ever changed. Mm-hmm. What about some new blood? When you want a new team, you get new coaches. When
Absolutely.
You want something new, you get new stuff. Well, guys, there are people that have been in office forever. And and not to be mean, grandmas and grandpas out there, they ain't going to change their ways. Mm-hmm. They never going to change. So why are we continuing to let these people stay in office? Get some new blood in them, because I tell you what, this country has changed. And I said, guys, that's right. the Constitution, this is the funniest thing. The military take an oath. I would defend the United States of America, foreign and domestic. When you go to office, you take an oath. I would defend the Constitution of the United States, foreign and domestic. But the Constitution is talking about the law for citizens to have the law to be protected. Mm-hmm. So why are we not?
Absolutely. Totally.
Oh, sorry, that was my preaching.
No, you know what? No, that was great. I'll tell you what.
I could listen to you all day.
Yeah,
You've been so authentic, so real.
Let's do this, Angel. And he has. He's been, just extremely honest, and we can't thank you enough. We've got time for each of us to ask one final question. Do you have a final question you'd like to? Anything come to mind?
Tough one.
Yes.
You're a spiritual guy, and I think a lot of the the human spirit can, what's happening with the human spirit right now, I think can be resolved with the right spiritual perspective. What perspective could you provide that would maybe bring some awareness to people that they're not seeing something that, because we've forgotten who we are, maybe a higher perspective?
Well, one of the things, and go back to, I said, sometimes I see that we try to remove, I want to say God. I love Jesus, and everyone has their own faith,
right? Which
has got to be your foundation. You have to have a foundation that when you're falling, you got to fall somewhere. You can't just keep falling. Well, my foundation has been my Christian belief. I remember my mom when I was little. I was 16. I used to be smart a long time ago. She gave me this old black Bible, and I remember she giving it to me before I got on the plane, and she said, "Bo, as long as you have Jesus and you keep this with you," she said, "you would never be alone." Every time I travel, I carry that old black Bible, and it's falling apart now. And I showed it, and I got it in a Ziploc bag. But I think everyone needs a foundation to know that it's going to be okay. They got to know that every man has a heart. We're human beings. Mm-hmm. It's humanity that we're fighting for. We're not fighting for no color. God doesn't even mention color, because mentioning color is separation. He don't talk about separation. He talk about togetherness. And that's my God. And that's what I want to be a part of. And I remember when Vice President Pence was talking about his religion, and someone made a statement that if he's talking to Jesus, he must be crazy. I said, I'm really crazy because I talk to homeboy all the time. Me and homeboy have a dialogue that we talk all the time, so I know I'm crazy. Because I said, that's what's so funny is, why do you want to remove? I'm not trying to tell anyone who to believe in. I said, I believe in Jesus. But you have your own faith. Believe in something that gives you a foundation. And if that foundation is telling you that you're better than someone else, it's got to be wrong. Yeah. If that foundation is telling you that you got to hurt someone else, you got to be wrong. Because the foundation is togetherness. The foundation is to forgive. The foundation is you are somebody because you're a child of God. And that's what I tell people. You are a child of God. And that's what I told someone. I said, guys, in today's world, I mentioned this, and it was on a tweet. I said, guys, this was so funny. I had a young lady who was white, who was one of my best friends, told me something that hurt me. And I started calling people. She said, Herschel, you tweet and you talk white. I said, how do you tweet black? I said, I tweet from my Bible and I tweet the way I was taught. I said, because I would rather live on my feet fighting for what's right than to die on my knees begging for somebody to give me something. No, I would rather live on my feet fighting for what's right, die on my feet fighting for what's right, than to live on my knees begging for someone to give me something, because that's what it seemed that people want me to do now, is to beg for something. And I said, God, I didn't grow up like that. I didn't grow up like that. My parents taught me to work. My parents taught me to help someone. This was so funny, and I'm glad you helped so many people, because God has made this world not for us. He made it for him. We're supposed to help him with it, though. And the way you help him is by helping other people. You don't help him by keeping it for yourself, like, oh, Jesus, I'm going to take care of me. No. You help him for yourself. You help someone else. I said, guys, when I was born, my mom almost died with me. And I lived with my grandmother while my mom was in the hospital. My grandmother, absolutely incredible. My grandmother, named Ann Lee Taylor, she passed away now. And what's fun, I never heard this woman say a hard. I even asked my mom this like a couple of weeks ago. I said, Mom, did your mom ever say anything mean about anyone? She said, no, I never heard her say anything mean. She was a church-going woman. But what's funny about her, she never went to school because she was not allowed to learn back then. But she could read the Bible. Is that not godly? Mm-hmm. This woman never even learned to read. She can read the Bible. Mm-hmm. But I always tell people, now I'm trying to get into heaven, and I see my grandmom in front of me, and she's at the pearly gates. And all of a sudden, they turn her around, tell her, you can't make it in, Ann Lee Taylor. You're not good enough. I said, I'm not even going up there. Because if she don't make it in, I know I'm not getting in either. So I'm turning around, going on back. Why waste my time? Because I said, that's the way I grew up with people that raised me to have a foundation of a faith.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Oh.
Yeah.
Last question.
Yes.
Great answer. And I'm sorry your mom's not here because she sounds like quite a lady.
Oh, my dad, too. My dad.
Your dad, too,
I
huh?
was named after Herschel is Jewish.
Okay.
People didn't even know that.
Right.
My grandfather, was, when you marry well, I shouldn't get into this, but, you're Jewish from the mom, not
right.
from the dad. When
right.
my Herschel came from my grandfather.
Interesting.
So it skips a generation. My son should name his son Herschel, but he's not going to do it because he don't listen to nothing I ever tell him.
So where does the bow come from?
Bo came from my nickname because, and see, Herschel was too difficult to say back in the South back then, so Herschel would have been a terrible name. Even when I went to school, all the teachers said, your name is Herschel. They didn't even know Herschel, and they just spelled it totally different. Now you said, no, it's Herschel. They said, no, your name is Herschel. They spell it Herschel and stuff. And I said, that's a girl name. Like if you have a girl, she can be named Herschel and stuff. Anyway, but that's where Herschel came from my father and stuff. Because and my father was an incredible man. And, and he passed away. And I tell people, sometimes I cry today because I didn't realize how great a father my mom and my father was. And before you ask your question, this is how great they were. No matter how hard they worked, I had some very, very good sisters and brothers. My parents would come home from work. No matter what they were doing, no matter what we were doing outside, my parents would come outside and try to play with us. After they just had a full day of work, they would come outside and try to play with us. Well, my mom is 84. About 5 years ago, she was 79. And when you go to my mom's house today, it's like going to the Olympics because all the nephews and nieces gotten older, they're bigger, so they're very athletic. They went to college, they got all this talent. So you better be in shape. You're ready to play. And I remember we were picking a basketball game up. We were getting a basketball game together. My mom was out there watching. She was 79. And all of a sudden, as I'm picking my team, my mom said, I like to play. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to pick my mom. She can't play no basketball. She's 79 years old. She can't guard nobody. And she said about 3 times, hey, I like to play with you guys. I like to play with you guys. And I didn't pick her. Because I'm not going to, my mom can't guard nobody. She can't shoot and stuff. And a couple of years later, I was at a base. I always talk to the soldiers about going on. And I thought about that. And it almost made me cry. Mm-hmm. Because I said, my whole life, my parents had taught me so much. And I said, my mom was 79 years old. Still wanted to play with me. Still wanted to do stuff with me. But I'm so into, like, my world. I'm so into, like, my winning that I said no to her. Mm-hmm. So I apologized to my mom years later. I apologized. I said, Mom, you remember a couple of years ago when we were playing basketball and then you wanted to play and I didn't pick you? I said, I'm sorry. And she said, I don't remember. I don't really care about you. And I said, I know I wanted to tell you I'm sorry because I said, you've taught, Dad, you have taught me so much. And yet they had so little, how they were treated. If I tell you how my mom said they was treated, but yet, that's the reason I feel about America the way I feel. That I said these young kids is running around tearing things up because, and like that emancipation statue that they wanted to take down. Mm-hmm. I said, they made me learn about that. And I said, do you know what that statue is? I said, everyone know it was paid for by free slaves. Yeah, you're right. But they helped to design it. Did you know that? Mm. Did you know that that free slave that's kneeling is not really kneeling? He's taking his chains off. Because he was the last slave taken in the Slave Act for slavery. He was the last slave. So that's who that is. And Lincoln has not got his hand over. And Lincoln is going to help him up to give him his emancipation paper to tell him he's free. Mm. And I said, you want to take that down? Have you read and see what it is? So I said, that's what I learned is that my mom and dad has taught me so much. But I'm going to blame myself too now, because in the inner city, like a lot of black kids don't have fathers. A lot of white kids don't have fathers. Well, I've been doing it in my hometown where I go back home and they don't have fathers. I talk to them like I'm like trying to instruct them. Well, should I do that a little more for the inner city? Become the father of those fatherless kids? Isn't it my responsibility? So I'm blaming myself for things that are going on too, that I feel I'm going to do something real big. Then you can ask your question, Scott. I feel in the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, why don't we do something? We give a lot of money to players. I want the Cowboys to put me on as their player or personnel or something, because I think what I'm gonna start putting in the contract today. For every year you're playing with the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Mavericks, the Rangers, you ought to give me 20 hours of community service. Just 20 hours. I'll pay you a couple of $1 million. Well, give me 20 hours of community service. I don't care what you do. And maybe, like, whenever you're going to take, I think that'll be a good thing to do.
Off season, that's a great solution.
And see, I think of things like that because people ask me, so what will you do? I said, I want to find solutions, not worry about problems. Because if you worry about problems, you can think of a lot of them. Yeah. But if you think about solutions, that's the key. Now you can ask your question. Sorry, I go into a world of my own.
That's all right.
I talk to myself so much, Scott. You can tell that.
Well, I've known you a long time. I understand that. And I also watched you get emotional just a minute ago when you talked about your mom and your dad, and then you talked about some of the kids that are in some pretty tough neighborhoods. I saw Denzel Washington the other day talking about the fact that he had 3 buddies that just were really close to him, but they were talking about the fact that something like 75-80% of African-American boys now live in a family without a dad. And that's some of the problems, or many of the greater problems. And he said he had a mom and a dad. He said even though they separated later on in life, he said, I had 3 buddies. And when we became teenagers, they suddenly, meaning my mom and dad, told me to stay away from these guys. And to this day, now here in 2020, they've already served over 40 years in the penitentiary, those 3 guys together. And he says, thankfully, my mom and dad told me to stay away, but unfortunately, they didn't have a mom and dad that said, right, you don't go get in those gangs, you don't do this, you don't do that. If it's 10 o'clock, you come home, you don't stay out. And so my final question to you is we wrap things up here. With all the incredible things that you've shared with us today, Herschel, as a takeaway, as something that you can leave us all with, let me just have some fun and say, if you were president of the United States, what are the 3 things, knowing what we've talked about today and knowing where our country is and knowing just where we'd like it to be so everybody got along and there was civility? That's the whole idea of the show. Leadership America, creating champions through a changing culture of civility. So we're kind, courteous, and respectful to one another. We care about one another. We're humble with one another. And we just want to help other people. What comes to mind? 3 things to wrap it up.
One of the first things I would do is go into the inner city and put good education. I think education is the key. I think education is the key, and because we can go to all these other countries, we can defeat the Taliban, we can do all these things, but you can't go into the inner city in Chicago, into New York, and clean up the drug problem, clean up I would clean. That would be one of my biggest missions. Let me clean that up and put education in those places that be equal to the education they should be getting, because education is the key. The education is able to make you say no to things you don't want to do, because when a kid doesn't have it, he gotta survive. So education, and then I think the second thing I would do is probably to work on that equality that I keep talking about. Hold people accountable, meaning hold people accountable. You talk about doing it, but you don't do it. I think that is the problem. People always talk about they're going to do this, going to do that, but no one ever do anything. They've been having, those meetings in Washington all the time. Mm-hmm. Have they solved any one thing? Have they done one thing? They've not done one thing, but they have meetings all the time. I said, hold people accountable. And, the third thing I would do for America, and people get mad when I say this. I said, I think I get back to America. I was talking about religion. I said, what's funny is, have you noticed that we're supposed to remove Christianity out of America because we don't want to hurt anyone else's religion? But I'm like, God, no. You get back to what America used to be. Not saying you're going to get rid of anyone else's beliefs, because you keep their beliefs, but you put the number one belief of America. Like, this is the United States of America flag. Well, it's going to be held high as the United States of America. So the belief of the United States of America that was here for years, which has been here for centuries, I'm going to hold that up strong for America, because that's what we are. We're a country of melting pot mutts, as I said. All great minds coming together. So that's what I want to have, all great minds. And, not just have, what's weird is when you go to Washington, if you're a young congressman or Senate that going into the Senate, you're not going to be heard unless you go along with the crowd. I want to get rid of that. I think, and people are going to disagree, I think AOC and her squad that they keep talking about, even though I may disagree with them, but they make a ruckus that people listen. Well, that may be what you need to do. Like I said, I may disagree with them, but you need people that are going to force that agenda in there to make people listen, because we can't keep doing this same old thing. Mm-hmm. Nothing ever changed. So I think those are the three things I would do. Education, and I try to bring that equality. I'm saying total equality into it, because we're melting pot.
Yeah,
that's what's up. We're melting pot. We're not no pure anything. And then holding people accountable on the back end over there.
Absolutely. And you're running for president in 2024?
No.
2024?
I gotta sell more chicken.
Well, a giant thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's as we started the show off, I've known you for 35 years, and I told Angel, I said, a lot of great athletes that you've watched. She, as we talked earlier, and her relationship with Michael Jordan being one of the lovables years ago when Michael Jordan, one of the cheerleaders on the sidelines. But I said, wait till you meet Herschel Walker.
Oh,
and so,
thank you. That's good to be in his
such a
class.
pleasure.
So a giant thank you to you. And I guess so, as we always wrap up our show, plays along to many of the things that you've said today. Live your life as a go-getter, but share your life as a go-giver. And you continue to do that every single day. So a giant thank you, Herschel Walker.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So
Such a pleasure.
That's it. So until next time.
Well, I'm Angel Carlton. Be sure to visit leadershipamerica.net. And until then, just be your best self.
You got it. And I'm Scott Murray. Till next time, stay healthy, stay safe.